Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault 2, and I'm coming to you with a video today after filming my range report revisit on this Langdon Tactical Beretta 92G with the red dot. Yeah, so I got two 9mm handguns out here, and it got me thinking about what the little dictator up in Canada is wanting to do when it comes to banning handguns. Now, I have to say that at first I was upset, but then I realized I'm not Canadian. I have no plans on visiting Canada. I can't affect the politics. I can't vote there. So people get the government that they vote for, and they deserve to get it good and hard. I think that was H.L. Mencken that said something to that nature. You get the government you vote for, and, you get it hard. You deserve to get what you vote for, pretty much. And Canadians are learning that. Now, I understand that not every Canadian voted for this stuff, but enough people in that country are willing to give up their rights. Now, in Canada, they don't have a Second Amendment. They don't. I'm sorry. They don't. Even though it all goes back to the old English law of natural rights and things, they don't have it. They have no belief that you should have a firearm for self-defense. It's kind of funny, though, because I guarantee you the Parliament building is guarded by guns. I guess they weren't going to use that for self-defense. And I'm sure Justin Trudeau is defended by people with guns for self-defense purposes, right? But I guess nobody needs a gun in Canada is what they claim. Anyway, but I don't have a horse in that race. So I get upset, but there's nothing I can do. But I want it to be a lesson for gun owners here in the United States, and especially those people that like to think that they're being reasonable. That if we just give them this or just give them that, it's going to be the end of it. I know there's people in the gun community that are that way. Sometimes people call them FUDs, and I don't like to use that word because I don't want to be derogatory to anybody or use a pejorative. And I always believe that people that are in the gun community, even if right now they think wrongly, that they can still be turned to our side, for them to realize, oh my gosh, if they can go for those guns, they can go for mine. We're all in this together. You want to win the hearts and minds of people and not berate them. You're not going to convert somebody to your side by telling them how wrong they are or how stupid they are, as much as you might think that. You have to win their hearts and minds. You have to reach out to those people that can be reached through reason and logic, through those methods. And then the other people, you have to show them in a compassionate way. And that can be very difficult because it's hard to debate people that are speaking from purely an emotional standpoint. But getting back to what I was saying, how it's never enough. The reason it's never enough is because they truly want the all-out abolition of all guns. And they know how the game is played. So right now, we can say, well, AR-15s were used in a bunch of these tragedies recently. Let's ban the AR-15. But what's going to happen when handguns are used next? Let's just say magically they could snap their fingers and all these evil AR-15s are gone. Which can't happen, but let's just say it could. And all of a sudden handguns, what they say, handguns are fine. Well, now we have to ban handguns. Or we have to ban the caliber of handguns. Like as Joe Biden said, 9mm is too much. Well, then we'll ban that. Then everything goes to 22. And then that won't be enough because they'll say, well, people are still dying. They know how the game is played. They know how the game is played. I've mentioned it before that there's essentially different types of anti-gun people, okay? And the three types of anti-gun people, from the lowest to the highest, when it comes to the masses, they're the most dangerous to us because they're the ones that can be swayed through just emotional argument. They're people that might not own guns, they don't care about guns, and they're just basic, everyday, common folk that are voters. And so they see these things that happen in the news, and then, of course, the way the news is framed affects them emotionally, affects them here. And then they go out on social media or on the day of voting and vote because they're like, I want to stop this. I want to stop this. Not understanding what they're actually doing. They think they're doing something, but they're actually doing nothing, and they're hurting themselves and they're hurting future generations. They're the most dangerous because they're easily swayed, they're uninitiated, and they're uneducated. They're ignorant. but they're not ignorant because they're willingly ignorant. They just don't know. And those are the people, while they're the most dangerous because they're the most, largest group of people that we have to contend with, they're the ones that we can actually sway to our side. We just have to do it in the right way, through logic and reason and through compassion. And I think that we can reach a lot of them. You're not going to reach all of them, but you can reach a lot of them. Then there's the next level of people, people that are invested in gun control. Now, these people, for the most part, do want to do good. One of the things we should not do is assume that just because someone is politically different than us or feels differently than us, especially on things like firearms, that they have some type of malice towards us. Okay? Maybe they do, but in general, their heart tells them that they want to stop these tragedies. And I think everybody does. I mean, who doesn't? I don't want anybody to die or these things to happen, and then I would do anything I can to prevent them. But it has to be something that's actually going to make an impact, not just something that's feel good. And these people, they really want to do well. And so while I can dislike them, I don't want to hate them in my heart, but I dislike them. I do know that they're passionate because they're coming from a point of wanting to do good. And so I have to give them a little credit for that. Those are the people that are harder to influence. It's possible, but they're harder to influence because their mind is made up. And a lot of times these people are financially invested in things like gun control. These are the people that might be lower level employees of these anti-gun organizations. Then there are the really insidious people at the top. These are typically the politicians, the usual suspects, as I call them, the people like Justin Trudeau or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or you name it, any politician that wants to ban guns at any level. And typically it's executives, of cities, states, countries, or even law enforcement officers that are appointed. Normally, sheriffs are pro-gun because they're elected by the population. And police chiefs that are politically appointed obviously will many times share the same political views as the people that appoint them. So it looks like, the police chief's anti-gun. You should be anti-gun. No, he's a political appointee. Essentially, he works at the pleasure of the mayor, or if it's a state police, of the governor or whatever. And so they're going to be anti-gun. And the reason that these people want you disarmed is because they want to make sure that you can't rise up against them. I honestly believe that because, it's funny. You can't have it both ways. Joe Biden and all these people that you probably have argued with or seen on Facebook, they'll say, it's silly that the Second Amendment, or that you believe the Second Amendment is to fight tyranny because you can't beat the federal government. You need Abrams tanks and F-16 fighters, which, by the way, a bunch of, AK-47 wielding lunatics in Afghanistan beat us. Let's just be very honest about that. They drove the United States out with B-52 bombers, B-1 bombers, B-2 bombers, F-16s, F-35s, F-22s, aircraft carriers. We have all that stuff, nuclear submarines. And we ran with our tail between our legs from a bunch of idiots just carrying AK-47s. That's what it was. We lost. Very similar thing happened in Vietnam. Now, granted, there's a lot of nuance to these arguments, but that's essentially what happened. So you can beat a military with small arms, okay? You just have to have the will. When people are fighting for something, they have more power on their side because they're willing to fight. They have things to lose. When an army goes in to invade a country like America went in to invade Afghanistan and take it over from the Taliban, the people that lived there had something to fight for. The professional army that went in there, they all want to go home safe. And so there's a different mindset of the two opposing factions. But anyway, let me get back to what I was saying. People will say you can't defeat the army with a handgun or an AR-15. So the Second Amendment is irrelevant. But then in the very same sentence or the same paragraph, they'll say, The AR-15, or now Joe Biden with 9mm handguns. It's a weapon of war, and it shouldn't be on the streets. Well, hold on a second. It's either ineffective against the government, and it's essentially a worthless weapon, or it's a weapon of war that can take down the government. Why do they call it a weapon of war? Because they don't want you to be able to ever wage war. Now, do I want civil unrest? No. But I do know that in the back of the minds of anybody that wants to do harm to their citizens worries and stays up at night thinking about private citizens with guns. I've heard it said from many people that if the law-abiding gun owners were the problem, you'd know about it, because there's 100 million of us, and there's over 1 trillion rounds of ammo in private possession, and over 100 million guns in circulation, or maybe there's more than that, 400 million guns. I forgot. There's more guns in America than there are people, and that was like 350 million people. So if we really were the problems, wouldn't you know it? You know, don't buy it. Don't buy it. People like Justin Trudeau are wannabe dictators. And I don't say that because, he's a political opponent of mine. He feels differently than me. I don't say it because of that, or just because I dislike him or something. I look at his actions, and I don't always think that these people, I don't think that Justin Trudeau is evil from the standpoint that, if he can disarm his population, that all of a sudden he'll, do evil things and round up people. I don't think that. Well, maybe, who knows? Because he sure hated those truckers in Canada, right? He probably hates those gun owners as well, but I don't think he necessarily wants to round them up. He just wants to control them. But once you remove the citizens' ability to defend themselves, and people get used to government controlling everything about their lives, what's going to stop the next prime minister, the prime minister after that, or 25 years from now, or 30 years from now? Now the groundwork has been laid. Everyone likes to do the whole comparing somebody to Hitler thing, and that's silly often. What really led up to all that were the people that were the leaders before him. On all sides, really the Treaty of Versailles led up to World War II, because the people that won that conflict, the Allies, were so harsh on the people that lost. They wanted to beat them down. They wanted to hurt them so badly because they hated them so much that essentially it fomented the next few decades and what would be to come. And our political opponents, and we can be guilty of that too, and we have to be cognizant of that, want to do that. They want to hurt us now. They're like, well, if we can beat them into submission, it will just go away. No. People that feel a certain way aren't going to change. Sure, society may change outwardly what you can say or think or write on a social media post, but it doesn't change. And eventually, it's this water that begins to boil underneath the surface. And like a volcano, eventually that pressure has to be released, and it explodes. And so people like Justin Trudeau, Joe Biden, they don't realize that. I think the people at the top do have malicious intent. But they're not malicious from where they want to round up people. But they will lay the groundwork for those who will. And our fight for our Second Amendment rights, our God-given rights, because the Second Amendment doesn't give us our rights, we all know that. It just codifies them, are something worth fighting for. And what's odd is the Second Amendment gives us the ability to fight a tyrannical government, but the way that we should fight it is by other means. Changing hearts and minds. Voting. Contacting your representatives. That's the way we have to do it. Petitioning our government. But like having a fire extinguisher, I got, 5 or 6 of them out here in the garage. They're there for emergencies. You hope and pray you never have to use one. I've never had to use a fire extinguisher in my entire life. But I got, as I said, 5 or 6 of them here in the garage for the house. but they're there because that day may come. Maybe it won't, but you're prepared. And so you want to exhaust all options so it never has to turn to actually using the Second Amendment for what it's truly designed for. And let's hope and pray that day never happens. Let's hope cooler heads prevail, and let's hope that we can protect our rights. Now, in Canada, I think it's a lost cause. Here in the United States, we're always one election away from losing everything. Remember that. One election away. So when it comes down to the time to vote in 2.5 years for a new administration, don't forget, don't go, you know what? I'll take all the high gas prices and the losing the rights and the Second Amendments and an influx of, undocumented people to the United States, but because I don't want those mean tweets. You got to put things in perspective. You got to put things in perspective. So anyway, I think Justin Trudeau is a tyrant. He's not evil, but he's a tyrant. And I'm sorry for the people of Canada. That's all I wanted to say about this. So, sorry guys, it's another long ranty video. My thoughts on Justin Trudeau and the anti-gunners and the 3 types of anti-gunners we have here in the United States. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.